Has this ever happened to you? You open up your phone or computer only to look up hours later and time has just flown by. You continue to scroll and you tell yourself, okay, only 10 more minutes, only one more video, only to see the quality of the videos you're watching are deteriorating and they're becoming shorter and shorter. You increasingly feel overstimulated, drained and like crap, but you still can't seem to stop. You don't want to continue and you don't want to stop. This has happened to me a lot, and about 8 years ago I became obsessed with figuring out why this kept happening to me. And what I discovered shocked me. It turns out there's a specific reason in our brain that this is happening. And I also discovered a step-by-step process that can pull us out of it while it is happening. Stick around towards the end and I give you the solution with a downloadable sheet that you can implement that I bet you haven't heard about before. So what is going on in our brains that makes us do this to ourselves? Dopamine is a chemical in your brain that plays a key role in motivation, learning, and pleasure. Every time you do an enjoyable activity, you get a spike of dopamine, and it's like nature's way of telling your body that, well, that activity was great. Do that again. And that sounds great. But the only problem is that this system faces big challenges in this modern world we are living in. Social media, video streaming, digital content has all been designed to hack this system. Every time you scroll, look at a new video, click on something, your brain gets a spike of dopamine. Imagine that you're in a casino and you're working a slot machine, pulling the lever. Every time you pull the lever, there's bright colors flashing in your face and anything can happen. In the next moment, you can become a millionaire. That creates a lot of excitement in us and it's very much unpredictable and a new thing can happen around every corner. The big tech companies has studied how the casinos can keep people in their houses for hours and hours and hours on end and not make them go home. And they've studied this and implemented these psychological hacks into their technology. The more novelty and unpredictability, the better. It makes your brain crave doing the next action, and it can't give you what you want every time because that would make you bored. So only sometimes you get to see that video you like, or you get to see a picture that you love or some funny thing, but not all the time. And this is where the dopamine spiral from hell begins. The more dopamine your brain gets, the more it craves. And when you tell yourself, okay, only 10 more minutes, that actually creates an anticipation in your brain that something exciting can happen the next 10 minutes. The more you experience this, the more your brain gets trained to be in this behavior. And it's actually very exciting to see what's going to happen around the next door. The idea of stopping for your brain becomes less and less appealing, and then the cycle continues in a downward spiral. But there's a very interesting reason why this is a problem at all. With constant dopamine spikes, your brain gets overstimulated. It takes in very much information that you need to store in your brain. Like, you can't just throw every book in your bookshelf, you need to store it one by one. And that same thing happens in your brain. Also, you get bombarded with dopamine, and that makes the brain need more to reach the same level of pleasure. It is like a drug. You get more and more and more addicted to it. Okay, so this feels really bad, but why is it so hard to break free from this dopamine spiral? Unfortunately, here you are the victim of your brain. It is not about willpower, because dopamine is such a strong neurochemical in your brain. It is hard to use willpower just to break free. Your brain has decided that this is what it wants, and that's why it's going to go for that thing. And the more you give into it, the more your brain starts to seek that behavior, because it sees that as the best thing it can do for you. It is actually trying to help you. So all this sounds really bleak, like we're being controlled by big tech companies taking over the systems that have been designed to actually help us. So now to the good part. How can we actually prevent this from happening and also actually stop us from continuing down the spiral while it is happening? One of the biggest problems here is that every time we enter this spiral, our attention span is shrinking. That means that we need shorter and shorter content, more bright colors, more action happening to keep us stimulated. So then our system to get out of this is very clever. We are going to use the dopamine spiral from hell against itself. We are going to go in the other direction. But what does that even mean? I created something called the Dopamine Tier List. It shows you what you can do on the internet from the worst until the best thing. And this is how the dopamine spiral works. It starts at the top when you're a little kid or you start to go on the internet for the first time and you have a great attention span, you have a great focus. And then it drags you down the list, down the spiral you go, and your attention span and what you need to get the same level of dopamine spikes decrease, and it becomes harder and harder to get it. And you go down on the list until you are just hanging out at the bottom of the list, only consuming short algorithmic content because that's the only thing for you to get your fix. So the dopamine tier list is designed for us to slowly climb back up to where we came from. That means that for you, you only have to move one step up. There's a big problem when we are in the dopamine spiral from hell and we feel like and we want to do something completely different. Let's say you're in there, you're scrolling, you're like, oh no, you feel shame, and then you're like, I need to meditate for 10 hours or go on the top of this mountain. And of course that's good, do that. But the thing is that's like a rubber band. It just snaps you right back into craving that when you come back from that meditation or that mountain trip. And that's because your brain is conditioned to high levels of dopamine. So we need to condition it back to the other level, the top of the dopamine tier list. And that is why this one ingredient is crucial. The ingredient I'm talking about here is time. To do this, we need to use time to our advantage. Let me give you an example. You are watching short, entertaining content, and you just become shorter and shorter, more and more entertaining. Then what you could do is watch a video like this. This has longer attention span, it's longer things you have to take in education, and you're actually focusing on what I'm saying right now. This is actually increasing your focus if you're coming from a place of consuming shorter videos. But if you want to move even further, you can go from watching this to watch a longer documentary, or from a documentary to a more slow-paced movie, or from a movie to reading a book. And you build yourself way up there. So you don't feel lost when you're watching YouTube because you know you can only move one step up. And all of this is explained in the dopamine tier list. So you can download that, study it, see where you can go next. And then next time you're in the dopamine spiral from hell, try to move up on that list for a long time, and it works over time. You just have to win every single time you're in the spiral. Just move one step up and you will get out of it eventually. Suddenly you see yourself laying in bed on a weekend or a weekday reading a book. And you actually feel good from that activity because it's sustaining your dopamine spikes. It doesn't give you that crash afterwards. And you feel good because you're learning something new and you're a little bit bored while doing it. And that's actually a good thing because our brain is used to being bored. That's how we evolved. So this is how you get out of the dopamine spiral from hell. I hope that helped. If you are going to continue on this level, then you can watch this video on how you can reduce your screen time, your distractive screen time, by up to 90%. Subscribe to this channel if you want to see more like this. I'm Francis Drake. I see you in another video. Goodbye.